Hi, everyone. My name is Aaron Hector, and I'm a private wealth advisor. It's a fancy way of saying I'm a financial planner with CWB Wealth. And today I just wanted to take a few minutes to really just go step by step in how do you actually prepare a T3 return along with Schedule 15 for a bare trust. So these are trust relationships with prior to this year did not require T3 tax return filings or anything really. So this is new information, new protocols, and it has left a lot of people really confused and not knowing really how uh, to comply with the new rules at the end of the day. So lots of people are using, professional accountants, but there is I think a pretty large part of the population that tries to do these things on their own. They don't really want to pay for accounting help. Um, Probably don't have trust tax software either. So I'm going to go about this from the perspective of the person out there who really just wants to do it themselves and do it in kind of the easy, accessible way using the forms that are available for download online on the government website. So here we go. So before I jump right into preparing the T3, I'm going to take a step back and just direct you quickly to a post that I made on Twitter earlier today, because this is the starting point here. First things first, you need to apply for a trust number. Um, that's basically the same thing as a social insurance number, but for a trust. So when you file your personal tax return, of course, you need to input your SIN. And when you file a trust return or a T3, which is the name of a tax return for a trust, whereas for a personal return, it's a T1, corporate return is a T2, a trust return is a T3. So first things first, you need to get a number so that you can actually submit a T3. So I put a post together really going step by step as to how you obtain that number. It's a really quite simple process, but I walk through all the different things that you need to do start to finish. This should take you less than 10 minutes to get this number. And if you have the information at your fingertips, probably going to take you quite a bit less than 10 minutes. But I just wanted to show that to you because before we get started on what I'm going to go through today in this video, you need to have this number at your fingertips. Okay, so you can refer back to that Twitter post to help you out with that if you'd like. So then we get to the actual T3 and what's called Schedule 15. So we're going to go through both of these two things. These are both required when you make your submission to CRA to file your Bare Trust T3 return. Now, I will take one more step back because I want to show you kind of from this point, when you actually have your trust number, what you're going to do. So I'm going to bring something else over onto the screen. This basically is what I'm going to use today. I'm going to pretend that this was the confirmation that I received at the end of that process, applying for the trust number. I've taken a real one here and I've deleted the information. I put a bunch of just kind of fake info here for the purpose of this video. So we've got our trust number right here. We have the name of our trust right here. And then we have one of our trustees information here. So I'm going to assume for this example I'll walk through you today that, again, we're using that information. We have a settlor, trustees, and a beneficiary. So first of all, let's assume that this is a scenario where you have a bank account with a senior parent who just needs some help doing day-to-day things. So that parent, who let's say they're in their 90s, have added their adult children as joint account holders on their bank account so that they can step in and do some kind of day-to-day functions on their behalf. So John here is our parent. He's the 90 plus year old person who needs a bit of help from his adult kids. His son and daughter are adult children who have been added as joint account holders on the bank account. They do not really have any right to this money. It's still the parents' money, but they're just added as kind of support people. So, and then we have a beneficiary, and that's the person who's the actual owner. So that's going to be John. So John is both our settler and our beneficiary, and the kids are the trustees who are on the account, but they don't own the account. And a settler in a trust, a settler is the person who really funds the trust. They're the one who has contributed the money or the property that is now an asset of the trust. So John's a settler. It's his money. It always was his money. He's also the beneficiary because he's the true owner, or he's the one who really is going to benefit from the bank account. And again, the two adult kids that have been added on really for convenience purposes are going to be the trustees. Okay. And I put this all together on a summary page just so that when I'm actually filling out the T3 and Schedule 15, you can see exactly where I'm coming from. If you had these people, their date of birth, and their address and SINs, you're going to be ready to go. Okay, so I'm going to move this just over to the side so we can keep that in our memory. I'm going to move this window here as well. Unfortunately, that's not snapping because I've got multiple monitors running. Okay, so here we are at our T3. So I'm just going to go through this step by step so you can follow. So our trust number, which I'm pulling from here, which was generated for us at the end of our submission, come from here. So we've got, it's an 8-digit number following the T, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, 8. This filing period is for 2023. So we're going 2023. Oops. 2023, and then the month, and then the day to 2023, December 31. So January 1st to December 31st, 2023. Now we are going to type in the name of the trust. So this is going to be called the John Smith Bank Account Bear Trust, which matches the application that we submitted with the trust registration when we got our number. The residence of the trust is Canada. So it is Canada, so we don't really need to put anything there. The province is Alberta. And now the trustee information. So we're going to put one trustee in here. I'm going to use the same trustee that we put on the application for the trust number, which was the son. So, in our case, we're talking about an individual as opposed to a company being the trustee. So option 1 is the trustee, first name, last name, telephone number. Oh, I should have probably had the telephone number on my summary page on the right-hand side there, but let's just make up a random number here. Address 123 45th Street Northwest, Calgary, Alberta, Canada, T1T T3. So you can see I'm just filling in the son's information here. I don't need to do anything here because we're talking about an individual, not an entity like a corporation or anything like that. So I'm going to leave that blank. The trust is not resident on designated Aboriginal settlement lands. So I'm going to say no. If the trust carried on a business in the year, it did not. So I'm going to leave that blank. If the trust became or ceased to be a resident of Canada in the year, enter the date. That neither of those are going to apply in this situation. Is the trust a deemed resident? No, it's not. It's actual resident in Canada, and we want to do English. If you're French, then put French. And we get into page 2, and really the first couple pages here, it's just information and questions. So you just kind of have to follow along and answer. So here it's asking, what's the type of the trust? So we are going to use this drop down, and we're looking for code 307, which is a bear trust. Again, that should match the application that you made when you registered the trust and got your trust number. Okay. The trust is not a GRE, graduated rate estate. Trust is not inter vivos trust, so we're not doing either of those. Is this the first year filing a T3? For most of you, the answer is going to be yes. If it's the first year, and if you answer that yes, and unless previously submitted, send us a copy of the trust document or the last will and testament and a listing of assets held as of the date of death. So when I did my Twitter thread about applying for the trust, after the trust number was issued, I highlighted the fact that you can submit trust documents. And this right now is why that's an important step. So when you've gotten your number, you can click that button and you can send to CRA details about the trust. Now, in bare trust situations, there is no formal trust document often. Whereas, if someone's creating a trust with a lawyer, they've got a trust deed, they're going to have a multi-page document that outlines all the details of the trust, and that's what they'll be uploading here. If there's a trust that's being created after someone has died and in their will, they leave money that's held in trust for someone else, they would be uploading their will as part of that application process. With a bare trust, you don't really have any documentation. And so I wanted to be in a position where I could click this box saying that I've sent the trust information previous to the T3 being submitted. And so I'll show you what I actually submitted, or what I would for my clients is a letter that looks like this on the side. So real simple letter addressed to the Winnipeg Tax Center because I'm in Alberta and that's where the trust mailing address would be for an Alberta resident. Different provinces have different addresses, so you can look online and see where to send trust info. That's just really so that I could fill out my cover letter here. I did submit it online. I didn't mail this, so anyways, just for completeness of my letter, that's where I got that address, is for the Alberta office that looks after trust returns. But what I put on here is just, saying this is the name of the trust, what assets are form part of the trust. So we're just saying this is a bank account, this is where it is, this is the bank account number. Of course, this is all just made up information. And then I've just put a brief description as to what's going on. So just saying, it's held by an elderly man. His kids have been added to the account to help. The interest income is still going to be going on to John's personal tax return. So he'll get a T5 reporting this interest, and he's just going to put it on his personal tax return the exact same way he always has. None of that income is going to be added into the T3 return itself. And then on this letter, I just described, who's the settlor, who's the trustees, who are the beneficiaries, just so that CRA has a bit of information as to what's going on with this trust, with this bear trust. And then I submitted that after, like basically immediately after I got my trust number. So again, got my trust number, clicked this box, uploaded a PDF copy of that letter. I got my approval, and then because I know I've done that, when I get to this info part on my T3 return, I can say that I've already sent the trust documents. If I hadn't done that, I would have really kind of been left not knowing how to answer this question and not really knowing what to do. And maybe I would have just left this blank and not done anything here. But that wouldn't have really felt quite right, for me at least. So anyways, just gonna carry on here. So this is the first year, not an amended return. It's not the final year for the trust. It's not being wound up. So just leaving, I guess I'm answering these now. And then there's a whole series of questions. So there's 14 questions, 15 including this residency question. So if trust is resident of Canada, you have to report its income from all sources, both inside and outside of Canada. And this is asking if you have, or if the trust has foreign property with a cost base of $100,000 Canadian or no. In this case, that would be a no. So if there was, say, an investment account with a whole bunch of US stocks or foreign stocks from any country other than Canada that exceeded $100,000 in book value, then I'd have to say yes on that and complete a T1135. But again, this is just a simple bank account. We're not doing that here. And I think in most people's situations, all of these questions are going to be no. So in this case, with a simple bank account here, I am answering no for all of these questions. And I think for most situations like this, that's going to be the case. And then it goes into, so this basically your information on the trust is now filled in. And then it goes into the income schedules where you would actually report income earned within the trust. This is where, for a bear trust, you completely ignore all of this. You don't have to report any income. So if this is for a bank account and it's earned, say, a couple $1,000s of interest income, you are not inputting that anywhere. That tax slip you get for that interest income is going to go directly onto the beneficiary's personal tax return the exact same way that it always has year after year after year prior to this. So the beauty of a Bear Trust T3 is that it's really simple and you don't need to fill out any income. So what you'll be doing is you're going to be putting the name of the trustee, the person that you've deemed is going to sign off on this. So put the name, so just assume it's Son Smith. They're going to sign. Title is going to be trustee, and they're going to date that. If there was a professional firm that was doing this for you, you would put the firm would put their own preparer information here. So that's it for the T3, pretty simple. Now, the other thing that we need to include with this is Schedule 15. So Schedule 15 is the beneficial ownership information of a trust. This is really where you're just adding all the different parties. So is this the first time the trust is reporting beneficial ownership information? Yes. because it is. I think for anyone listening to this video, if you're trying to figure out what to do with your Bare Trust, you're going to say yes here. Next year, when you file the 2024 return, you will say no. But for this year, it's going to be a yes. Has the beneficial owner of the ownership information of the trust changed during the year? We're going to say no, assuming that all these people are the same year over year. And then we are adding these people. So in part B, so we're adding a reportable entity. Let's do the settler first. So we'll take the settler, which is the person who had the money or the property to begin with. This is a person. That person is John Smith. Oh, sorry, I did that wrong. So entity name, if not a person, I'm going to leave that blank. So first name John, last name Smith. Their date of birth is 1931, 01, 01, as you can see right here. We're going to identify that person using their SIN. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They're a resident of Canada, and their address is 67 89th Street Northwest, Canada, Calgary, Alberta, A1B, 2C3. Did they cease to become a reportable entity? No. Now, at this point, you might say, well, what the heck? There's not enough room for me to add anything else here. So what you have to do, if you're using this fillable PDF that I've downloaded from the internet, is add the part B, and then the PDF populates more room basically to keep going here. So now we're going to add the trustees. So we're adding a reportable entity, adding a trustee. Oh, and one more thing I will say. So John Smith, the parent here, they are both a settler and a beneficiary. So you might ask if I can just tick both of these boxes. You cannot. You have to do each relationship or each entity type one at a time. So even if the person has multiple hats that they're wearing, you have to input them twice, one for each entity type. Okay, so now we're on to the second one. So we're adding our trustee, natural person. This is son Smith. Date of birth is 1965, February 1st. We're doing the SIN. 4, 5, 6, 9, 1, 2, 3. Resident of Canada. Put in their address. So that's T1, T2, T3. Didn't cease to become an entity. Okay, now we got to add another part to part B. Add an entity, another trustee, natural person. Now we're doing daughter Smith. Birth date is 1970, 0301. Put her SIN there. Resident of Canada. Address is 321 98th Avenue. Southwest. Nice that everyone in the Smith family lives so close to each other. Okay. And we're not done yet because now we need to add John Smith as a beneficiary. We added them as a settler, but not as a beneficiary. So now we're doing beneficiary here. Oops, capitalize that, John Smith. Okay, so now we have filled out our Schedule 15, and that's all we need to do. So we would essentially take our T3, print this out, take our Schedule 15, print this out, then we're going to look up where to mail T3 return. And, it depends where the trustees reside. Okay, so it's based off the trustees' residence, not the beneficiary's residence. So for my situation here, we're doing Alberta, Winnipeg Tax Center. So I'm going to print those out, sign them, date them, of course, and then I'm going to pop them in the mail to the Winnipeg Tax Center. And I'm done. That's it. That's all I need to do. Then I'm going to wait for my notice of assessment to be received in probably many, many, many weeks. Okay, I hope that that was helpful. I've shown this, for a bare trust for a bank account. If it was a bare trust relationship for a property, like a piece of real estate, basically we're doing the same thing other than the initial explanation of the trust on that letter I typed out and submitted. I outlined the property, but on the T3 itself, you'll notice that there was nowhere that we actually needed to list those details. So that's where I think it's a good idea to provide that information by way of that letter that you upload when you're requesting the trust number. That's it. Anyways, hope this was helpful, everyone, and have a great day.